Good morning, everybody. It is Sunday, and I hope you are all doing well. This is the Lions Grid, and I'm your host, Kevin Marhani, and we are coming to you live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. Happy to have you here. Thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching this live or if you're watching the recording at a later date. We appreciate your support. And without further ado, we're going to jump in here to the Week 15 matchup between the Detroit Lions and the New York Jets. The Lions coming into this game at 6-7, and they're in the hunt for one of the wild card spots in the NFC. The Jets 7-6 in the hunt for one of the spots in the AFC. So this is going to be an important game for both teams. Certainly, both teams would love a win here because it would help their chances of making the playoffs. Um, but really, the Lions got a little bit of help earlier this week when the Seahawks lost, dropping them to 7-7. So that helps them out. The fact the Commanders and the Giants are playing each other, something today that is also something that could help out the Lions' playoff chances. Um, and then there's some other games going on around the league. The Steelers playing Carolina, and the Bengals playing the Buccaneers. Games where you're probably root and the Falcons and the Saints. You'd love to see the Saints get a win. You'd love to see the Steelers get a win, and you'd love to see the Bengals get a win because that would certainly help out the Lions' chances as we get down to the end of the season here for potentially making it in to the wild card. But I, for one, am just excited that it is December, and for the first time in quite a few years, we're seeing meaningful football games played by the Detroit Lions in December. That's exciting stuff. Um, we talked about last week how I thought one of the big things. A lot of people are saying that the same old Lions, SOL, is dead now, and this is a whole new team, and it is a new team. The only problem is the same old Lions sort of sticks with the team regardless of what regime it is, and I think they did take a huge first step. I guess it's not even the first step; it's probably a second or third step with getting rid of that same old lines and showing that this team is different than the teams that have come before it because they beat Minnesota, who came into that game 10-2. Now, mind you, Minnesota is a weird team. Um, I feel bad for Matt Ryan because he is now going to become his career is going to become infamous for the fact that he is the only quarterback to let opponents come from more than 32 points down in a game to win, because it happened to him in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and then last night or yesterday against the Vikings, the Colts found themselves found a way to lose that game, even though they were up 33-0. It would have been nice to see the Vikings lose that game. If the Vikings had lost out, potentially the Lions could have challenged for the NFC North if they ran the table. But with the win there, the Vikings do clinch the NFC North. So not the prettiest way to secure the NFC North, but they got the job done, and they are your NFC North champs here for the 2022 season. So that leaves the wild card as the only way for the Lions to get into the playoffs. And they were able to beat the Vikings, who, like I said, I think teams in years past would not have beaten that 10-2 Viking team. And I don't think teams in years past would have been favored to win that game. It was the first time ever that a 5-7 team was favored over a 10-2 team. So it's been a tale of two seasons, right? It's been a complete turnaround, and that's really been, I think, the first step is that usually when you have the snowball and you get that momentum rolling, Lions historically have been a team with, if they've been losing, they continue to lose. If they've been winning, there's a chance they'll continue to win, and it just losing breeds more losing, winning breeds more winning. It just sort of happens that way. That momentum sort of can carry the team. But it's been great to see that the Lions have, unlike Lions teams of the past, been able to overcome the fact they struggled early in the season and really look like a completely different team. A big part of that, as we've talked about here on the Lions grid, has been their ability to win the turnover battle. They are definitely up when it comes to turnovers, takeaways versus turnovers. Jared Goff and the Lions offense has been very good about not giving the ball away, and this Lions defense has been finding ways to force fumbles and recover them and to get interceptions. Some of them coming from odd places, like Aiden Hutchinson with 2 interceptions as defensive lineman. Certainly not something you would, I don't think anybody called that heading into the season that he would be leading, would have 2 interceptions here in his rookie year. It's been fantastic the way that this rookie class has played. Brad Holmes did a fantastic job drafting, and there were moments I think people were questioning, him taking Aiden Hutchinson. And Aiden Hutchinson has showed up and has been one of the most consistent contributors to this defense. He has certainly grown over his time so far in this first season, but that's exactly what you want to see. You want to see players progress and get better. So the fact they've been able to do that is has been really encouraging. So now we're coming here again today against the Jets, another team that would love to get a win. But as sort of mentioned when we set the scope for the NFC playoffs, a game that the Lions really want to win too. Now, potentially, I think the Lions could drop one of these remaining games and still make the playoffs. Obviously, if you had your choice of dropping a game or winning out is definitely going to give you your best opportunity to make the playoffs, because you have games against the Jets, the Panthers, the Bears, and the Packers. If you can win those four, that puts you at 10 wins, and I think you have a really good chance at that point of making the NFC wildcard. So a big game, and this is, I think, the biggest hurdle left for the Lions. That doesn't mean the other games on the schedule are going to be easy, but this game here against the Jets is really going to pit strength against strength. You're going to see the Lions offense, which has definitely been of the 2 units, the more consistent, the more high powered unit going up against this Jets defense that has been fantastic on the season. Certainly a Jets defense that is ready for a playoff push. And of course, they've been trying to get things figured out on the offensive side of things. Zach Wilson will be playing today in place of the injured Mike White, and I think that could be a big thing because obviously, if you haven't been following the Jets, they decided to switch and bench Zach Wilson for Mike White. Even though they went 5-2 with Zach Wilson as a starter, he lost that locker room. He lost his teammates. He's he's not a very likable guy, which isn't necessarily surprising if you dig into some of his beliefs and things like that. He's certainly I don't blame them. I personally don't like what I've read about him. So I understand why the locker room may feel some sort of way about him. So it's going to be interesting. This is his first game back since being benched, and obviously he's not coming in because they're like, okay, he's ready to start. It's out of necessity because Mike White got obliterated by the Buffalo Bills. I don't know if you saw that hit that he took in the game, but he literally got like folded in half. The fact that he came back out there with his ribs being as just devastated as they were is, I guess it speaks to his toughness, but it also kind of speaks to his stupidity because that if you've seen that hit, he got just obliterated, and so his ribs he had to go to the hospital after the game. Very lucky that injury wasn't more serious because yeah, he got absolutely leveled a couple of times, but the one time in particular, like I said, it was like he was a piece of origami paper and got folded in half. Um, so you're really, like I said, it's going to be a battle of strength on strength because we've mentioned the Lions defense has been not the greatest. Like I said, they've been winning and forcing turnovers, which has certainly helped correct the ship here in the second half of the season. So hopefully they can continue to do that. But the Lions offense, I think, if you talked about which of the 2 units has been the strongest, I think you would talk certainly. I think it's not a stretch to say the Lions offense. And so it's going to be interesting. Like I said, that strength on strength battle between the Lions offense and the Jets defense. And a big thing I think is going to be, in particular, going to be can the Lions continue to have red zone success? They've been very effective with the red zone possessions, scoring touchdowns. Thankfully, their kicking game has sort of improved as well. So if they do have to settle for field goals, you feel a little bit more confident about that. But the Jets defense, like I said, is very good and doesn't like to let teams score. So it's going to come down to, when they do get those red zone possessions, can the Lions, because the difference in this game could be the difference between getting a touchdown and a field goal on those drives. So for the Lions, it's going to be important that they finish the drives and finish them with touchdowns because when you're playing good teams like the Jets, that's what it's universal. It's not just the Lions. Whenever you're a team and you're playing another good opponent, you want to finish with 7 points instead of three. It just puts you in a better position to win that game. When you're getting field goals all the time, you let that other team hang around, and then one big play, and they can. It only takes one touchdown to equalize two field goals. So it's just basics of football. If you're going to beat good teams, you need to finish with touchdowns over field goals. So that's something we're going to look for the Lions to do. The weather isn't awful. It is, again, the game's being played in East Rutherford. It's the Lions' second trip out there. They played the Giants earlier this season, but they're now going to be taking on the Jets. And so it's going to be, I'm not sure if they have, I know I saw in the Buffalo Bills game last night, they were throwing snowballs at the Dolphins. And they ended up at that one point, saying, "Hey, if any more snowballs get thrown on the field, it's going to be a 15-yard penalty against the Bills." I don't think they're. I'm not sure what the snow situation is looking like in East Rutherford. I don't think if they have snow, it's as much, but it's supposed to be in the high 30s with mostly sunny. So it's going to be cold, but the Lions should be all right there. And so the weather shouldn't be too much of a factor. Again, I think the biggest factor for the Jets in particular is going to be the return of Zach Wilson. How is he going to respond to the fact that he was benched for those two games? As mentioned, this isn't like he's getting put back in because they're thinking that he's ready and has earned the right to become the starter again. It's because Mike White is hurt. So you have this guy who lost the locker room, lost his teammates, lost faith in him, who is now being asked to come in, step in, win a pretty big game because, like I said, for both the Lions and the Jets, this game is crucial for their playoff push. With both of them sitting right there in the hunt for the wild card spots in their respective divisions or their respective conferences. It's going to be interesting. Can he step up? I think the Jets offense has a lot of reliable weapons. You've seen Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin. You've seen uh, who's their new running back because they've they've struggled a lot with keeping running backs healthy as well. I think it's something Knight is the new guy, but he's shown that he can do a good job running the ball. It's going to be up to Zach Wilson and can he bounce back from not only is this a pivotal moment for the Jets in terms of their playoff push this season, but I think for Zach Wilson this is going to be a pivotal point for his career. At least specifically with the Jets. How he responds here as he's being asked to step in for Mike White is going to be crucial for whether or not he stays in a Jets uniform or not. And quite frankly, I'd love to see him struggle and the Lions take advantage of it. In my opinion, that'd be fine. Not only as someone who wants to see the Lions make it to the playoffs, but just as someone who isn't a big Zach Wilson fan, I would not. My feelings would not be hurt seeing him struggle and see him sort of continue to have a hard time there and give Robert Saleh some heartburn because Robert Saleh is a good coach, but the kryptonite of this Jets team very well could be Zach Wilson. So we'll have to see. And then of course for the Lions, we've talked about what has really helped them as they've turned the season around has again been that turnover ratio. They've been on the positive side of things. They've had they're taking the ball away from opponents more than they're giving it away. And so as you're playing this Jets defense whose strength is defense, or this Jets team whose strength is their defense, can they continue to take care of the football while making plays? I think that's one thing that Jared Goff has done a very, very good job of over the last few games. He's not only having success and is on a hot streak, but he's also taking care of the football while doing that. He's not necessarily being that gunslinger that's out there and making a bunch of questionable throws and things like that and putting the ball at risk. He has been back there looking like a seasoned veteran, one of the best QBs in the league, slinging that ball around. He's got 10 touchdowns to only one interception on this current 5-1 streak. And he's coming off back-to-back 300-yard games. He's having himself a time, and it's going to be interesting to see if he can continue doing that against a defense again. I think the Jets defense, talked about it being a strength of their team, but I think that it's legitimately a defense where if you gave the Lions the Jets defense, plus their offense would certainly they'd be looking like one of the best teams in the NFL and certainly a favorite to win the Super Bowl. So, um, you know, as good as the Lions offense is, the Jets defense is also good. So it's going to be interesting to see as those two forces collide, who can come out on top, and it's going to be important for the Lions that Jared Goff continues to take good care of the football as well as the rest of the Lions because you know, Jamal Williams isn't a guy who fumbles very often, but he did have that fumble against the Buffalo Bills, and that was a big thing in that game where they lost to the Bills by 3 points. You know, as we were talking about earlier, with the need to score touchdowns over field goals in the red zone to have a win against a good team, you also have to limit your mistakes. Um, and you know it's hard, it's harder to force your opponent into mistakes. It's easier to limit your own mistakes because you just, you know, you everyone needs to do their job. So if everyone does their job like they have been over this 5-1 streak, takes care of the football, I think the Lions will be in pretty good shape because the defense does seem to find ways. And again, with Zach Wilson coming back in after being on the bench for a few weeks here, I think there's certainly a chance that the this Lions defense can find ways to make them make mistakes. And then again, it's going to just be important for the Lions to capitalize on those mistakes with touchdowns and not field goals. So, you know, really a fairly generic, you know, overview of what needs to happen for the Lions because usually that's what needs to happen for every team on any week. But it's something that the Lions have been particularly good at over this winning streak. You know, their offense playing well, their defense forcing other teams to make mistakes, and then limiting their own. It's just been it's been nice to watch. It's been refreshing. And I think for me to really see the Lions, as we talked about earlier, really ditch the SOL thing. You know, this is another important game. Um, some people have anointed them as not as SOL being dead after the win against the Vikings. And some people were even doing it before then with the way they've been able to turn things around this season. You know, I really want to wait until the end of the season to see what they can do and look at the whole body of work. And then it's going to be important to see what they do next season too, because you have seen some teams in the Lions' history sort of shed that SOL, but then it comes back in the you know sort of the next season. So right now, I definitely the turnaround the Lions have had, this 5-1 streak they're currently on, this push they're making to the playoffs. Not only is it super exciting to talk about and fun to watch, but you know it could very well be the proof that we need, the evidence that says, hey, this is not, you know, SOL is dead. This is a different franchise now. They're moving in the right direction. And they certainly have taken a lot of good steps towards proving that. You know, the latest being that win against the Vikings. If they can come out here today on Sunday and get a win against the Jets, a team again that is also trying to get into the playoffs just on the AFC side of the bracket, just another huge step forward for an organization. Not an easy task. None of these four remaining games are easy. Certainly, if you look at just the records, this game against the 7-6 Jets is the biggest hurdle, just because they are the only team with a winning record. But you know they also have to play Carolina, who Carolina you have to watch out for. That defense is no joke. And the offense is looking good with Sam Darnold, and they also run the ball really well. We'll talk about them next week when we're on to them, but not as easy of a game as you would think going up against a 5-8 opponent. And then, of course, to close out this year, they're playing the Bears and the Packers. The Bears are obviously having a disappointing season. They're 3-10. Um, and so I think the Lions should easily be the favorites there, but it is a divisional rival in the Bears. So you know those games are never easy to win, but it is at Ford Field. It's the last home game of the season, so that helps. And again, I think the Lions should win that game, no problem. And then the more interesting one is them going to Lambeau the last week of the season to play the Packers in January. Um, I think they should be favored against the Packers because the Packers have looked awful and are just no good. But it is in Lambeau, and I've been alive for 32 years, and I think the Lions may have won twice during that time in those 32 years at Lambeau Field. So it's not something they do often. But this could be the third time here this year. Or I guess this would be they've played 31 times, and this is going to be the 32nd time. I don't know. I don't know the math, but they haven't won there often. So regardless, if they can get a win in week 7 or in the upcoming week against yeah, it's week 17 now. Yeah, week 17 against the Packers in January or in January. That'd be huge. But it all starts, I think, here with the Jets. This is a definitely, like I said, one of the better defenses in the NFL. So if the Lions can continue to do the things that they've been successful at during this 5-1 win streak that they're on, doing it against a defense the caliber of the Jets, really, I think, is just another more affirmation that this team is really somebody that could get into the playoffs and could make some noise, uh, that you should keep an eye on, and that's exciting, exciting things. It's been a while since meaningful football has been played here in December, so I for one am looking forward to tuning in later on today. I believe it's a 1 o'clock kickoff. Let me just double check over here. I think, yeah, yep, 1 o'clock. East Rutherford, Jets, Lions. Should be good stuff. Looking forward to the game. Again, I think I'm going with the. uh, I have to be careful because I've only gotten one pick 'em right, and I don't want to put any bad juju on the Lions, but I'm going with the Lions in this game. I think they can get the win. I have no faith in Zach Wilson except for him to be a source of uh, pain for Jets fans. So I'm hoping the Lions can go in there and take care of business, and I can improve to 2-11. Or wait, this will actually be what 2-12 on the season because week 14. And yeah, the Lions had their bye, so yeah, I would improve to 2-14 if we can get this one right with going with the Lions in today's matchup. So thank you for tuning in to the Lions Grid. Again, and whether you're here live with us or you're watching the recording later on, we certainly appreciate your support. Again, we come live to you every Sunday and Monday on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. We hit you with the pre-game episode, which we're here today doing, and then we hit you with the post-game episode on Monday just to sort of recap what happened, and also, take a look at that playoff picture and how things are shaking up with the outcome of the game. So hopefully tomorrow we'll be able to celebrate a Lions win, them advancing to 7-7 on the season, and take a look at the updated playoff picture because again, there are some important games being played today that can certainly help out the Lions' ability to make the playoffs. Again, you have the Bengals and the Buccaneers playing today. You also have the Steelers and the Panthers, and you have the Falcons and the Saints, and the Commanders and the Giants. So, of course, the teams that are currently ahead of the Lions in the wild card hunt are the Cowboys, the Commanders, the Giants, and the Seahawks. And then just below them, you have the Panthers and the Falcons. So, hopefully you see those teams that are just below the Lions get some losses, and then you see the Commanders and the Giants. I think actually optimally for that game would be the Commanders and the Giants tying again. They did tie earlier this season. Both teams are 7-5-1. So if they could somehow find a way to tie again here, I think that would be to the Lions' favor, especially with the Lions having the head-to-head win over both the Commanders and the Giants. Putting them at 7 wins would, I think, help elevate them up there and potentially take one of those final 3 wild card spots because again, the Vikings claimed the NFC North title, so the only way in for the Lions is the wild card. And the best way for them to make the wild card is for them to go ahead and win these 4 remaining games. So we'll hopefully be able to tune in on Monday here to the Lions Grid as we do our post game show and celebrate that win and take a look at that, see where we stand in the updated playoff picture. Until then, I'm Kevin Marhine. This has been the Lions Grid. Again, appreciate your support. If you are watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Twitter, please subscribe to our channels there. Follow us. It's the best way to keep up to date with the latest episodes, and your support really does help this channel grow. So we appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Go Lions, and we'll catch you on Monday. See ya.